Good morning, good evening, and g'day. Welcome to the Z2Z podcast, home for Xbox achievement hunters and Gamerscore junkies. I'm your host, Brandon Freeman, and thank you so much for listening. At Z2Z, we love gaming, and in particular, grabbing achievements and gaining Gamerscore. We do news, reviews, and interviews. If it's about achievements, we'll unlock it. This week's show, we're covering the entire world. We've got a little MMO and MOBA talk. We're going to break down some regional gaming and those lovely stacks. And to help us with that, we have a very special guest host from across the pond. Between US, Australia, and UK, I hope Skype can hold on because we've got a great show coming up. You can find show notes for this show, as well as previous shows, on our website, z2z.com. That's Z-E-D-T-O-Z-E-D. This is Episode 5. You can also contact us with questions and comments on Twitter at Z2Z, or email us directly, contact@z2z.com. Today's show is brought to you by the achievement, I swear I did it by mistake, from the game Lollipop Chainsaw on the Xbox 360. Lollipop Chainsaw is a hack-and-slash zombie game featuring the chainsaw-wielding, buxom high school cheerleader Juliet. This third-person game allows the player to control the camera with the right stick, as most games of that nature do, and the player can take this low angle behind Juliet in an effort to peek under her cheerleader skirt. She covers her rear with her hand in an effort to shield herself, and it takes a minute or two to get this to register, so you really have to commit to getting this achievement. It's not going to happen by accident. The achievement will pop, but your guilt will linger. Special thanks to developer Grasshopper and publisher Warner Brothers for this silly extracurricular achievement. And we open it up to anyone. If you guys have any suggestions of achievements that you want as a sponsor, something you're particularly proud of, or you think is funny, or whatever. We got one submission, solo champion in Gra from Crandy with a K. Oh, come on, Crandy. Now you're not even trying. Anyway, with that said, let's get this show started. We got a quick recap of what we've been playing, but first, let me introduce my co-hosts and our special guest. We'll do our special guest first. You know him from TrueAchievements.com, an occasional contributor to the TA Podcast, the website, and programming guru, WebChimp UK. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I am wonderful. And I am also joined by my regular tech-savvy co-host, Terrigan. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
So, Brandon?
Yes, what's up?
I got nothing, sorry.
No, you got nothing? I do. Listen to this. So,
all right.
I was poking around on the internet, as I want to do, and apparently Best Buy is, it's a, electronic retailer here in the U.S., are selling 2 games. And I saw them, I'm like, $2 games, this is great. Birdwatcher 4, Pacific Northwest, or you can also buy Thumb Wrestler Extreme XXL. And I'm thinking, oh my God, these got to be like $2 games? This has got to be the easiest gamer score out there. Like, I can only imagine Birdwatcher 4 of like an easy 900 and maybe like the last 2 achievements of collect all birds or find Phil Spencer in the woods or something. And then Thumb Wrestler Extreme, like I'm thinking Fight Night Round 3 where there's a cheat code that you can use your finger to hold the other guy's thumb down. Turns out these things are those, they're like fake wrappers that you slide over your Xbox game. So, like, kids don't know what game they're getting for, it's Fallout 4. I mean, I'm almost more excited about Birdwatcher 4. But I was also thinking,
I want to see what the illegal moves are like in Thumb Wrestler Extreme.
Right? Like, you just punch the dude in the face instead. You give him the right cross.
The green thumb.
You're right. But I was also thinking, like, okay, I mean, there's clearly like the boxes look a lot like, and we'll put the image in the show notes. So you can take a peek at these if you wanted to. They look like Xbox games. I mean, like cursory glance, you're like, oh, cool, Xbox game, because the green bar across the top, but it says ZBox. Of course, they don't want to, they don't want to get in trouble. And but they've got like some of the, the marketing stuff. But I'm thinking, I mean, if I saw Goat Simulator, I mean, I would think that's a fake game, right? Like, that's not a real thing, is it?
So Jack, this is actually probably one for you. You're working on a game with Crandy. Maybe you could do a Birdwatcher 4 or a Thumb Wrestler, and there's already some pre-prepared artwork for you there.
I think it kind of emphasises the way that the indie marketplace is going, really, doesn't it?
It really does. It's crazy.
It's good for obviously achievement hunters like ourselves for Gamerscore if they've got achievements, but bad for indie games in general, potentially.
Right? But now, I mean, does this take Birdwatcher off the market? I mean, can you make a Birdwatcher game, or is this Prank Box going to say, hey, that was our idea? We came up with the birdwatching simulator.
It's kind of put the idea there to Phil now, hasn't it? So it's one for the list, definitely.
That's fantastic. Well, let's move into the regular part of our show. We have gotten so much wonderful listener feedback. Thank you so much for everybody who's taken the time to listen to our shows and reached out to us. Twitter, probably the easiest, at Z2Z.com. That's ZEDTOZED, not .com. There's no .com on Twitter. That's our webpage. You should go there. And of course, rating us on iTunes, so helpful. We got one new rating
climbing
this
up the ranks on iTunes, which has been great.
I know. I'm like this leaderboard junkie when it comes to iTunes. I don't want to jinx it, but we were 28th in new and noteworthy on iTunes without doing anything. That's the best part. It's all you, word of mouth. Everyone who's listening, thank you so much. I hope we're doing something right, or something that you at least find entertaining for an hour or two. And if you don't, I just appreciate the subscribe and just download it anyway. But I hope you listen. With that being said, I want to give a shout-out to Dave Soto Jr., Doughboy, for the fantastic 5-star iTunes review. I appreciate that. And we also got some comments from Facial LaFleur on our website. Thanks again for going to the site and poking around there. I put up a TA feed and got a couple of hits from some friends from the Achievement Hounds community. Seb, AHP the 90 is his gamer tag. He asked if we bought the domain name, so I'm in America, Z2Z, the letter Z, the number 2, the letter Z.com. We do not have that domain name. So if you go to that site, and the two brothers, I think they're the Zarqawi's brothers. Anyway, that's not Terrigan and I.
You sure? That's totally us.
I am afraid if you're looking for real life Freem and Terrigan, that's not us. We do have the Z2 with the number 2 Z, and yes, the Nighty goes on to say the confusion with the letter Z, especially since on this show, I mean, I'm the only one who actually says Z, Z-E-E. Both of you guys use Z, I'm assuming.
Yep.
I use both, actually. I can refer to either, but mostly Z. It's A to Z. I don't say A to Z.
I mean, you got to think that's what, when somebody hears that, they're going to say, oh, Z, just the letter, right?
Yeah.
That's why we spell it.
Yes.
It's important. We also got a feed from Garrett, X-Towers. He helped us out on show 2. He throws a question. Do you guys like fishing games or hunting games? Let's start with Jack. Jack, what about you? What do you like, fishing or hunting?
I've got to sound almost impartial. I don't think I've played enough of either to really comment fairly, but I suppose I've poured more time into the Cabela games.
Right.
I was going to mention the Cabela games. They're sort of the go-to.
Yeah, well, the go-to for achievement hunters, definitely. Yeah. It's usually a similar list between the games, quite easy, and, well, not time-consuming, which is always good.
Yeah. I wonder if, would Minecraft count as a fishing game?
Yeah, there's fishing in that. I was going to say...
spent a lot of time in Minecraft, but...
I was going to say I'm a hunting fan, because I feel like when I get into Left 4 Dead or Dead Rising that I'm hunting zombies, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
If they came up with an
awesome zombie fishing game.
Fishing game, right? Like, you're trying to get the lunker, but sometimes you get a corpse, and it tries to bite you. I mean, that'd be exciting. You could put the rumble on the controller to, oh, I'm getting eaten. So.
Yeah, I would say hunting games for me, just because that's where the achievements are. There's not many fishing games out there, actually. But I do have a couple in my backlog, which is some of those obscure repeller games with those lovely unobtainables. But yeah, probably more hunting games for me.
You're trying to tell me servers on a widely popular fishing game just couldn't hold up?
Or they just weren't there, yeah.
or they didn't code it well enough to keep them alive. There's that too. Well, let's move into Twitter. We got a couple of quick shout-outs. Robert Orwin at Buck Marley 155, NBA Kirkland, and Nate Smith at Kushmoose. Thank you guys so much for your comments. NBA Kirkland, to you especially for retweeting to your group of friends at the Gamerscore podcast. We appreciate that. Terrigan, you had a bit of a Twitter conversation this week.
Yeah, had a bit of a back and forth with someone who seems to be our number one fan, which is awesome. At McLovin Legend 1, which is at McLovin Legend 1. He had a bit of a back and forth with me about my gaming backlog and how many games I buy, and said that I do have a bit of a problem. And he actually posed me a bit of a challenge, which was to not buy any more games during January. Challenge accepted. I've been very tempted to still buy things. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to last on that one.
I thought you failed already.
I've managed to hold off. The only game I've added to my tag since then has been the games with gold, Zeros, which we had a bit of back and forth, and that doesn't count, so that's okay.
Because it's free.
Yes, exactly. But we'll see when we get to the next week's specials. We'll see if I manage to hold off or not. Of course, you know what's going to happen. We'll get to Feb 1, and then I'm going to buy like 90 games just to catch up. So
that's right. You're behind your pace. Now, that being said, admitting you have a problem is the first step, Terrigan. Are you willing to admit that you have a problem?
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, you can stop at any time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a problem.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. And stop whenever I want. Honest. He also had a question for us as well. So this is a general thing: is what achievements are we most proud of? In my own case, and I think I've mentioned this on various podcasts before, I think the 7-Day Survivor on Dead Rising, the original Dead Rising, is probably my sort of favourite go-to achievement that I'm most proud of getting. It was the one that I completed the game with, and it took 14 hours of real time plus the other 14 hours of times that I failed. So, yes, that would be my personal go-to. What about you guys?
I'll let Jack go. What do you got?
So mine kind of sits across a series of games, and it's the Kane and Lynch titles, which kind of feeds nicely into the stackable stuff. It's the True Elite achievement for being number one on the leaderboards.
Yes. Granny would love you for that one.
Well, something quite cool about that. I think I'm probably the only person in the world to have done this, but I was number one on all 3 leaderboards at the same time.
Wow.
Nice. Take that, rest of the world.
Yeah, exactly. So that's...
That is an impressive feat. That game is quite difficult to do that on.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's fantastic.
So what are the original versions of that? There's obviously the normal US version.
So you've got the international version, it's kind of known as the international version, but...
It's the non-US version.
Yeah, there's the Japanese version, the US version, and the PC version.
Oh, right. Okay.
Goodness gracious. That's a lot of stacking.
So...
Wow. I got 2 games, 3 achievements. So I've mentioned these before on a different show. The Wipeout 2 for the Kinect. The specifically Fool's Gold, where you don't collect any rings in an episode, and El Dorado, where you collect all the rings in an episode. Both of these achievements are ridiculously high TA because the Kinect functionality in Wipeout 2 is dreadful. And it is really challenging to get your guy to stop and back up when it's like, no, don't touch that ring, don't touch that ring. Oh, now you got to start the whole thing over again. That happens so many times, and like you're actually jumping and stuff. Like I was trying to find cheat ways to do it so that I didn't actually physically have to do anything. Doesn't work. You actually have to do it. And so I got really tired, and I did not enjoy that one bit. Thankfully, in the new Wipeout Create and Crash, you can actually just use your controller the whole time. It's fantastic.
We need to develop something like that Jazz Hands app that I mentioned in previous episodes for the Kinect, so you can just have like a little mannequin that does things.
Just get your computer to run it.
Yeah.
The other one was the Transcend achievement in Ascend Hand of Cool. That's like, get to the max level prestige a bunch of times. Whatever. I hate doing those types of achievements, and I never really enjoy that just level grinding to get to the end. But with as much as I put in to clean that thing up, and I had that as my last achievement, and then the servers were going down in, I think it was like 2 months, when I was like, okay, I totally can do this. And I put my mind to it, grinded away, managed it. I think I had 5 or 6 days left before servers shut down, but I unlocked that, got the completion. So that's just a fun. I put my mind to it and it worked. So I like that one as well.
There we go. All right. Well, moving on, we had some new followers as well on our Twitter feed, which is nice. Fabrice, LSC Mr. Sandman, who we would know from the Achievement Hounds podcast, as he's been an irregular host there. And also BT7398, they're new followers. Thanks for tagging along.
Absolutely. And then Curse Souls, also from the Achievement Hounds community, at Jason Kerr 214, reached out and he said, hey, that was a fantastic interview on episode 4 with Sasha Morning, and overall a great episode. I want to echo his statements. That was a fantastic interview, Terrigan. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Sasha Morning for taking some time and talking with us. That was really cool, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thank you very much. All right, so we've got a couple other questions again from Twitter. Montana97, which is at GTMontana97, a friend from the AHP as well. What genre is your gaming kryptonite? As in, which genre do you suck at, stay away from the most, achievement-wise? Friend, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to approach this question. One, and I've mentioned, I don't like fighting games, I'm terrible at them, and I don't like racing games, terrible at those. So that's not really my kryptonite because I just avoid them like the plague. But what I can't help, it's this just carrot on a stick. I love shoot-em-ups and bullet hells. And I am so bad at them. Like, it is embarrassingly bad. But I just love getting in a ship, trying to dodge bullets, and exploding constantly. I cannot, like, Sign Mora, right? I think I got the 2 easiest achievements. I can't do anything beyond that. And I wouldn't even venture. I watch, Cloudberry Kingdom, that's a platforming bullet hell, and Death Smiles. Yeah. I look at those and I'm like, you're insane. How can anyone do that? So I love those genres, and they hurt me so bad when it comes to completions and getting achievements. What about you, Jack? How you got anything that takes you down a peg?
I think for me it's fighting games. I just can't get on with them at all. So I'm not one for kind of intricate button pushes and series of moves all in one go. But kind of going in the other direction from that, for some reason, intricate button pushes and in the Trial series, so the side-scrolling motorbike game.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I just can't get enough of that. I love it.
It's so great. It is.
It's my go-to relaxing game.
Relaxing, that's a funny way to put it.
Well, it's the fury of people that ever watched me play it on Twitch.
For me, again, I don't actually mind the fighting games, particularly the sort of button combo ones. I used to play a lot of Tekken back in the day, so I sort of learnt the whole button combo stuff. I don't really play the fighting games a lot, so they're not really my go-to genre. But I think the games that most frustrate me to play, though, are the spaceship, sort of 3D spaceship ones, where you've got full rotation, left, right, up, down, and trying to actually aim and hit anything in those ones just frustrates the crap out of me.
Oh, Strike Suit Zero.
Yeah, anything,
that was
anything
a
like
monster.
That. And it's just, there's another one, I forget the name of it, I'll link it in the show notes. But yeah, it's just, I find them really frustrating for some reason. I just can't kind of get my head around, targeting it properly. I can't even pass them on easy most of the time. So.
Did you ever play Descent on the old?
I did. Computer? I used to love Descent.
Yeah.
But that was all real full rotation, and you were kind of static though. You weren't always moving forward.
Right.
I think it's the moving forward kind of constant flight kind of thing that really throws me off. So any kind of dogfighting games, I guess, is what you'd call that.
Right. They didn't go quite so far in momentum with Descent. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Made life a lot easier.
I remember setting up custom keys for that, for the full rotation thing, because you've got to like set up your keys across the board so they don't clash with each other, so you can rotate in one direction at the same time as sliding and things like that.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Yeah, your old school minute with Z to Z podcast.
Yeah. We have another question from Elliot. That's at Big L. Actually, not so much a question. Elliot,
public service announcement.
Big L69. He's just heard the first 2 episodes. Just wanted to quickly say nobody mentioned the Smart Glass app as an easy way to find challenges. Just go to achievements and swipe once to the right for featured challenges. There are a whopping 5 right now. So that's a really great tip. And yeah, I'd actually completely forgotten about Smart Glass as a way to access challenges. So that's some good bit of info there.
Well, not only a way to access, like clearly the best way to access.
Well, that's probably the only way, really. Aside from going to True Achievements itself and getting the list there, it's probably the only official way.
There is 6 now. The sixth one, State of Decay, started up their new monthly challenge.
Yep.
Or weekly, bi-monthly challenge.
So just to interject, we actually had a new challenge hit on the 12th of January for Xbox Fitness.
Ooh, okay, yep.
Yeah,
so 7.
Look at that.
Yeah.
They're just coming out of the woodwork.
Oof. It's crazy. All right, so shall we move on to recapping? Brandon, what have you been playing?
So I've been working on my January goals of completing Disney Infinity 2.0 edition. I had mentioned on the previous show about the XP grinding thing, and I even mentioned I should catch up on The Walking Dead. So I did. I set it and just kind of twiddled the thumbstick every now and again and caught up on, I think I only watched 4 hours of The Walking Dead, but it was grinding experience the whole time. It was glorious. So I did end up getting the 2 characters to level 20. I actually got 4 characters to level 20. Unfortunately, my play date fell through. We couldn't get our group together to take down that survival challenge that'll happen in a week or 2. So between that and the All for One are the last 2 I need to get.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you about Disney Infinity and maybe even the Skylanders series. And this could be a general question for listeners as well. Is for somebody who has never played any one of those games, what is the easiest way to get into them and best bang for buck, essentially? If I wanted to get them all and spend the least amount of money getting everything for it, what do you do?
Well, clearly getting the older ones is the way to go because they don't port up, right? So if you got the 1.0 base, you're stuck with 1.0 characters. And so you can build up your character at 1.0, and I will have a full recap because I have Disney Infinity 2.0 for the 1, and I will see what carries over from once I complete the 360 version. Because I know your character levels do. That's all kept on the chips on the characters, so they'll show up at level 20. So those will be 2 quick, easy achievements. But I don't know about anything else. I assume you have to kind of play through the game and do those. Unfortunately, the fastest way to get XP is buying more characters. There's a thing in there where for every hero, or so this is the Marvel Heroes version, for every hero or every Disney character you have, you can look in your gallery, and each one unlocked gives you a bonus to your XP. And so with the 16 or 17 characters I have, I've got a 43% XP bonus. Here's the thing. You could borrow those, and I don't know what the return policy is at your video game retailers. If you could borrow them, unlock them on your console, your portal, and it'll show that you've had them at one point, but not necessarily, you don't actually have to own them. And so that should unlock all of the XP bonusing, so you'll gain levels faster. The other grind and this is ultimately where you're going to get hung up on, is in the game there are these things called feats. And they're kind of like internal challenges, do these objectives, do these things, right? Well, they're partitioned in each game mode, and so you need to get 90, and there's 236 total. Now, the base game has enough for you to get the 90, so you can get them all in the base game. But there's some challenging ones in there that either require, a lot of work, a lot of time. So from my standpoint, the easiest thing for me to do is, since my son loves the play sets, was I bought the Guardian of the Galaxy's playset. I've got the Avengers playset. You put those on there, you grab the easiest 15 or 20, and then you move on to another game type. So, the interiors, where you build an internal house. In the game, there's no, and this is something that is missing out on the web. There's no really great spot to look for all these feats.
Right.
They're all in game, and they're kind of annoying to get to, but you can get there, you look down, you find one, and it's like, yes, I'm going to go do that. Then you execute it, and you come back to the list and re-look at it. That's just the easiest way to do it, is go through and pick off the ones that you think are easy, right? If you're in the toy box grinding XP, those are all going to be logic-based feats. Set up this many connections, set up a camera to do this, set up the wind thing to do this. Those are things that you can set up while you're grinding XP, but eventually you'll have to go to the interiors mode. Eventually you'll have to go to the Escape from Kiln minigames. Eventually you'll have to go to the Assault on Asgard minigame. And unfortunately, once you get to a certain point, all those feats get pretty tricky. Not from a challenge standpoint, but really from a time standpoint.
Yeah, all right.
And they unfortunately have character locked stuff. Like, you need to have Merida to get one of them.
Right.
Like, well, if you didn't buy Merida, you don't have Merida. So
yeah, I guess it might be worth a bit of a feature discussion on those and all the Skylanders games and everything that's kind of cross-compatible in that lot. Would be good to go through at some point.
Absolutely. I also played a little bit of Ultratron. I won't really go into that, but that's my feeding the itch of a bullet hell shooter. And then I started the Bright Lord DLC for Shadow of Mordor. Celebrimbor is real squishy. He does not hold up like Talion does, and so I was getting killed a lot. Celebrimbor's claim here, what makes him exciting, is that he can just start controlling orcs like crazy. And so that's your idea, is you build up an army of orcs and have them fight for you. But you can't tell. I mean, there's this little blue halo about who's branded, but it's so hard to see in the melee of fighting. It's really obnoxious. But there is one achievement. It's a little tricky to get. I'm going to point it out here. It's called From Shadow to Shadow. And what you need to do is stealth brand a captain. Now, the problem is most captains are immune to stealth. And so the only way to find out is by gaining intelligence. And so when you're fighting a captain, it's almost it's not going to default you, but it really lends itself for you to brand that captain. Don't go just butchering them all. Try and brand them all because your guy's so weak anyway, you need them on your side. And when you dominate them, you have an option of gaining intel. The war chiefs are all locked, so all you have is the grunts. Look into all those grunts, and once you have a good amount of them, always check their weaknesses. And at the very top of the weaknesses, it'll say vulnerable to stealth finishers. Once you find that guy, mark him as your target and do as best you can to do a stealth brand from above. Get on top of a tower or a wall where you're, incognito, right? That he doesn't know you're there. Wait for him to highlight red, drop down and hit B, and you'll stealth brand him. He'll automatically be on your side. The tricky part is finding those guys, so make sure you're gaining intel. Other than that, hopefully I can finish that up this week. Terrigan, what about you? What have you been playing?
Well, as always, I've been trying to grind through or try and get that luck-based achievement in Superstar Karaoke. I actually fulfilled the conditions that I hoped would actually trigger it, and it didn't trigger. So I'm basically putting it down to, yes, I have hit that supposed glitch, and confirmed that, yes, that glitch probably does exist. So I've had to wipe my save on that, and I'll be starting all over, getting me enough XP to unlock the old man character in that again, which was a bit of a pain. Yeah, so yeah, I was a bit annoyed about that, but what can you do? Batman Arkham Knight, I decided to actually go and play some of the DLC, which I've got as part of the Season Pass. The Season of Infamy DLC, which was... I actually basically picked this up because I needed some points in the GTA SC, so I didn't get knocked out of the individual comp. So I just ran through that. It was actually quite good. It's basically got 4 different sort of stories as part of the main... the main arc. They're not episodes. They're part of your general Batman kind of experience, and you can play them during the regular game. That was all really good. Quite enjoyed that. Probably one of the better DLCs that I've had for that game. Gone Home, the console edition, came out this week, and I've sort of heard good things about Gone Home. It's been that kind of the indie game that's been on the radar for a while, but of course never had achievements, so I didn't bother with it. Console version's come out, and I played the game as it was meant to be played. It took me 2 or 3 hours, I suppose, to go through the whole thing. I'm basically going to leave the rest of the achievements there for some quick points later on for the GTA SC, the Great True Achievement Challenge. And I also started Alien Isolation, although you wouldn't know that from my tag because they're stuck in a done unlocking state at the moment due to some issues with Xbox Live at the moment. But yeah, Alien Isolation, quite like the Alien series. Again, I'm playing that one because it's a game I want to play, not because of the gamer score, which is, a little bit odd for me, but there you go. If you do happen to like survival horror games, Alien Isolation is quite good, very, very enthralling, and worth it. So I guess we'll move on to the news, unless, Jack, you've got anything you'd like to add in?
Yeah, what have you been working on, Jack? Do you get to play games?
Yeah, we do actually. So I've got 2 Xbox Ones in the office, PS4, PS3 and Xbox 360, so quite lucky.
And I forgot you work at a place that really likes achievements. That must be wonderful.
It's strange to kind of be sitting at work and being on True Achievements and realising I can actually be on it, and it's work. It doesn't matter. But over the past weekend, I started a couple of not started, but continue playing a couple of indie games. So 618 Over Moon.
Yep. It's a nice, easy completion, that one.
Yeah. So I've played through the game forward, so now I'm going back to the reverse mode for it.
Yep.
So it's not too bad.
How did you find the transition there? It took me a little while to get used to going backwards through it. It was a bit mind-bending. I mean, I know some other people have had issues with that, but
it is weird with the gravity flip, definitely. It's, Now I think about it, I didn't at the time. I've only played a couple of levels in reverse on it, but there definitely is a little bit of difficulty in picking up the transition. But as soon as you've kind of played a couple of levels, it just clicks. It's a bit weird.
I found that, and it actually, funnily enough, gets easier because you're going backwards through the levels. So.
I'm just wondering if I went back to the forward mode now, would it be as difficult a transition? That'd be quite interesting. Right. So after that, I hopped on to Thomas Was Alone, which is quite a good game, a little bit different. Then on to Numa Breath of Life, got a couple of achievements in that.
You really are doing the indies.
So I was actually working through my easy achievement list, just in the order it was in. So it's kind of get this achievement and then, different game, let's hop onto that, get that achievement, and then hop back on something else. It's quite fun. But
were you testing out functionality or something? Why?
No.
This is all work, right?
Clean those up, yeah.
No, this was on Saturday, stupidly before the GTA SC started. And I haven't really played anything since then, apart from Destiny, so I've hopped back into that. So we chatted about that a little bit before the show, but I finally plumped for the Taken King DLC and found 2 other people that wanted to play along as well, so hopped into that, and I've been kind of caught up in the world of Destiny, which is a lot better than the first time I played it back in, I think it would have been September, was it 2014 or was it 2015?
It was 14.
It's 14 then, yeah. September 2014. That's when it launched.
Vanilla.
Oh, vanilla's horrible.
It tasted like vanilla. It was gross.
Not good.
But I gotta sing the praises of Taken King 2. I just love the changes they've made. It's just so rewarding.
It's just
sometimes
kind of smaller tweaks in it. But I've been playing around with website functionality with it too, which is I don't know if you've ever checked that out, but kind of a companion and how the website ties into the game. And it's like a whole gear management system there, and it's all like Ajaxed up. It's all really nice. It's
that they didn't originally had that, but they brought that in, and that stuff's really cool. Even in the app, I don't know if you played with the app as well for that sort of stuff.
I haven't actually.
The integration's great,
but you're really kind of pushing the boundaries of merging, just almost managing on the go when you don't have the game with you. Which is nice.
Yeah.
It's,
I guess one of the criticisms actually of the game was that the grimoire stuff is only accessible through the web or through the app. There's no grimoire you can read internally in game. I don't know if that's changed or not, but that was always something that kind of bugged me, that there's a lot of this rich history that you can get access to for the Destiny universe, but none of it's accessible in game. It's like
it's a bit of a backward step almost, isn't it? It's,
yeah, it's a bit weird, but
yeah,
especially when you've got the cards popping up in game.
Yeah, they tried to do a little bit with, while you're walking around, like there's points of interest, and the ghost, like if you go scan it, the ghost will say, oh, yeah, hey, this is something cool. Here, let me tell you about it. And it'll take, a couple seconds, but those are so few. And, really the most rich history, if you're really interested in learning about this, the Book of Sorrows, the collection. So if you collect all the calcified fragments, you get Grimoire cards for them. There's 50 of them. I think there's 50. And go on YouTube. That's where you're going to get all this good stuff. They've put these collections together, and yeah, it talks about, growing up as the Hive, how Oryx turned into the big bad, his sisters, his daughters, his son. It just goes into the whole family history of Oryx and his and the Hive, and it's like it leads into why he's here and why he's pissed. But it's written in a way that's like actually a compelling story, and I'd be surprised if they didn't bind that up and put it into some sort of a book for sale, because there's a lot of good lore out there. But you're right, it's to have it disconnected from the game is just a complete misstep.
Yeah, having something like the Mass Effect really had their internal sort of library of all that sort of stuff, and when you unlocked new things, you could go and instantly read about the lore of whatever it was you just happened to look at. If they had something like that in Destiny, it would have helped a lot, I think, to get people more immersed in it.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic. I think I think we should move into our news. We get into some of the fun topics that have shown up in the week. This piece of news isn't necessarily fun. Hitman, the game is now officially episodic again until they change it. But that's what it started with. It's coming out March 11th. That's the launch, and they've clarified. Square Enix has clarified. Okay, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get a prologue mission and the Paris location. That's what happens on March 11th, and it's going to cost you $15. Then in April, you're going to get the Italy location and probably some other stories, missions, and whatnot. That's going to cost you $10. In May, you get Morocco, $10, and then they're going to have more monthly releases. They've had 3 announced cities so far. So Thailand, the U.S., and then Japan is going to be the last one. So you're at least on the hook for another $30. That's all we know about. They might throw in another city here or there. Okay, so let's add this up. 15 to start, 10 for each locations. That's a $65 game if it stops at these locations. Or, of course, they're gonna offer you the full experience. You can pay $15 to try it out, and then a $50 full experience. Well, wait a minute. Why not just buy them individually? Why pay for the full experience? It leads me to believe that there's other garbage in there that they're hiding from us. Finally, you can, in fact, buy the $60 quote-unquote free full experience up front, give them your $60, and you get all the content that's going to be released over the entire year. This sounds like a terrible, terrible pricing model. I'm not happy about it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I've my own opinion on it. Well, yeah, I haven't really had to think about it, but I know that Macca of Macca's Guides, he was ranting about this on Twitter. He really wasn't happy, saying basically that a game that's like this, which has a sort of mechanics that you need to learn, shouldn't be episodic, because it's not the kind of thing that you
you can't just pick it up and put it down.
Yeah, it's like episode 2, or sorry, just say if you're playing a regular game, you get to the second chapter or the third chapter of a game, you've picked up skills from the first chapter, which you then apply to the second, and you learn more skills during the second, which then apply to the third. If you're putting down a game for a while and then picking it up again, you kind of forget those skills, and so it doesn't really apply or doesn't really work as well in that kind of content. Story-based things like the Telltale games, sure, they work because they don't have a lot of innate game mechanics that you need to remember. Right. So that was sort of his opinion. I can subscribe to that. I guess for me, I sort of think about it from the developer's point of view in that, well, making games costs money. If they can do it in a kind of episodic format, then they're getting money coming in, which means that they can keep paying people to keep producing the content. That might be what's going on. I'm not too sure. You wouldn't think that Square would really have a lot of cash problems, but then maybe they're just trying a new model of that sort of thing. I don't think, as a rule, it's been very popular, no. But I guess we'll see what happens.
I think most of the things that people are upset about is this nebulous full experience or all of the content we're going to make. Like, I mean, it's the whole season pass concept. Here's some money, and I hope you develop something that's worthwhile. Please.
Yeah, so it's basically pre-ordering a whole bunch of chapters.
Right.
Pre-ordering DLC.
Right. I mean, and you get the people on the front end who buy it and then, look at us. Like, how often do you go back and replay a game or a DLC that went on sale? I mean, I typically forget those things and say, oh, my God, I did buy that DLC. Gosh, why didn't I even play that? Oh, it's because I put the game down 7 months ago. I'm not coming back.
Yeah. I've actually got a similar thing, but it's Watch Dogs. I sort of thought, hey, I haven't finished that game yet because of the DLC that came out. I must go and play that. And I realized I hadn't actually bought the DLC yet. And I thought, yeah, damn. So...
The one thing I want to mention, and we'll bring it back to achievements, is I have no idea what their achievement model is going to be. Because if they're indeed saying $15 is your entry point, your base game, as it were, is that going to be $1,000 base game, or are we thinking, and then each map maybe has another 10 achievements or something like DLC? Or do we think maybe it'll be more episodic and it's like, yeah, here's 250, here's 250, here's 250?
If it follows the latter format, I don't think people are going to be happy with that at all.
I don't think so either.
I know the King's Quest series, I think did that. Chapter 1 was like 1,000 gamer score, and then Chapter 2 came out with 200 or something as a DLC for that, and that's,
more palatable.
Well, it's not, because the thing is that the base game was like $40, which I thought was quite expensive for the type of game it is anyway. And then Chapter 2 is another $40, and it's only 200 gamer score. Why would you buy that?
Wait, what? Oh, yeah, because you're in Australia.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I forgot, you get ripped off out there.
Yeah, we do. So that just didn't seem really worth it to me. I certainly, I think I picked up the Chapter 1 or whatever it was of something else for the King's Quest thing for like $2 when it was on special. But yeah, I'm not going to shell out $40 for 200 points. Yeah,
I mean, if I like Hitman, I'll pay $15 for 1,000. I'm not sure I want to pay $15 for 200.
Well, I think that's actually a better price, like a better cost point proposition than say the King's Quest was.
Yeah.
15 for 200 is fine as long as they're going to pad that out with another 4 for $15 each. I think that sort of works because we've already got that kind of model with the Telltale games. Whether it works with a Hitman game or not is the question.
Right. Hey, Jack, have you ever bought achievement gamer score? Do you ever just say, I'm going to pay $5 because I know it's easy gamer score?
Yes, I have.
Do you feel guilty about it?
Not really. At the end of the day, I figure I'd end up picking content up eventually if it was I tend to wait for content to be on sale anyway.
Right.
So I've got a huge backlog as it is, and whenever I get a game, I'll go for the online achievements first, get all those out of the way, then it can go on the back burner until I get around to wanting to play the single player.
That's
but
smart.
I definitely have bought achievements. Like in the recent sales, I picked up both of the King's Quest episode 1s, actually.
Yeah.
I think they were on for, was it $1.99 or...
Yeah.
I think it was $1.75 over here.
Sure.
So,
well,
yeah. Speaking of buying achievements, have you heard of the game Stranglehold?
Mm-hmm.
There's There's some very expensive DLC for that. Now, if you want to get the completion, of course, you have to get the DLC. I think the DLC is multiplayer DLC that you can do with 2 people in the space of about half an hour, but they cost about $15 each. So that was some rather expensive gamer score, but very easy to get. But yeah.
That's crazy. Hey, I got a sale for you guys. How would you like something that's free? That's my favorite price. This upcoming weekend. Yeah, this upcoming weekend. Free EA access to all gold members. Wait, is it all Xbox or all gold? I think it's gold. I think you got to have gold. But from January 19th to January 24th, you get EA access for free. So if you're listening to this before those dates, get on there and scoop up all the NBA 2K whatever on there that you can. Scoop up every achievement you can get in this short little window, because the achievements are out there to be had and you don't have to pay for it.
On the other hand, if you do that, if you don't care about completions.
That's a good point.
Care about completions, don't even bother.
That is a good point.
I'm sure you can do Titanfall in a week, can't you?
Yeah, easy. Yeah,
wait. Into that false sense of security.
That Gen 10 one. 0 point Gen 10. What garbage. Yeah, hopefully Titanfall 2 doesn't have an achievement like that. I hate those.
Well,
little danglers at the end.
There was the achievement in Titanfall for using invalidates the achievement if you use a token.
Yeah, that's right. You can get the black market thing to skip a particular gen up or whatever it is, and and you basically completely lock yourself out of that achievement forever.
Yep.
Which is insane.
We should probably get that as a sponsored achievement one of these days.
That's a good point. That's a great point, actually. Moving on to other news, the DC Universe Online is coming to the Xbox One in spring of 2016. So sometime in the near future, DC Universe Online, it's a free-to-play MMO. I mean, we got Smite, we've got World of Tanks, we've got Happy Wars, all these other MMOs. Do you guys even like MMOs?
As a rule, no. I think Destiny was probably the closest I actually got to spending any amount of time in anything that could be closely resembling an MMO. However, this is DC Universe, and they do have Batman, so I might be on that one.
You're not Batman, though, right? Don't you make your own superhero?
Well, you do, but it's the DC Universe, man. It's like you've got. Yeah, I don't know.
See, I'm a Marvel guy. I don't really care so much for DC.
I kind of like both. But yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Jack? MMOs do anything for you?
Not really. I've got friends that kind of play them on and off. A couple of guys I know play a lot of WoW.
Sure.
One guy to the point where he forgets to eat sometimes, which is insane. But it'll kind of get to 11 o'clock at night and he'll be like, I haven't eaten yet.
Is he from South Korea? Or?
Yeah, right.
But they've never really done anything for me. Again, Tarragon, the closest I've got is probably Destiny.
Yeah, I think the entry to get in is it's so daunting because you know what you're getting into. It's like, I'm gonna apply an interview for this second job, and it's called DC Universe Online, and I'm gonna spend 20 to 40 hours a week, and I'll get very little out of it, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, that was pretty much my experience with Destiny.
Kind of, especially vanilla Destiny.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I'm also not a big fan of MMOs. But hey, those of you out there who like them, it's free to play. If it's coming to Xbox, it's going to have achievements. So there you have it. I don't know how grindy or awful they'll be, but free is always good. The last piece of news, one of the last pieces of news I wanted to touch on, Microsoft rejected a HoloLens pitch regarding League of Legends. So ultimately, picture this. You've got your HoloLens on, and ultimately you're going to be able to watch. They will project the League of Legends map on a table, and you can now watch as an overhead spectator, like the Goodyear blimp, all of the action that's happening on the League of Legends game. This sounds amazing. This is like the future of esports viewing. I just think about how cool it would be to have this godlike view of the action that's happening in front of you, augmented reality Twitch essentially, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to zoom in on that dude over there," and you go zoom in and follow him, and let's just see, and this sounds brilliant. Now, Microsoft has said they've come out with a statement saying why they rejected it. And they said, "We love this idea, the creativity, the level of support it has received from the League of Legends community. However, in order for Microsoft to open source the code to the community, as promised, we cannot build a project which is based on existing intellectual property." Now, Microsoft owns the Halo property, right? Could they do this in Halo, where you could watch a Warzone map from up in the sky? I mean, I guess the community couldn't develop that, but internally they could sure do that.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway from that statement is that they're going to open source the whole HoloLens stuff, which means that if they do that, then anybody could go and write that. So League of Legends could take that open source and write it for themselves. It's just... Is that? Am I reading that right? Is that?
That's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's basically saying, yeah, well, we're not going to do it, but we will be opening it up, and you can do it yourselves. Is how I sort of read that. So, it may well happen, and it would be quite awesome to see, being able to watch Halo matches or StarCraft even, for example,
right,
on a HoloLens kind of thing. I noticed StarCraft would be extremely popular for that sort of thing.
Gears of War, Call of Duty. I mean, anything that has a competitive multiplayer that you want to watch on Twitch. Imagine having a bird's eye view and being able to control the action. Hey, look, there's a skirmish over on that ridge over there. I'm going to go zoom right over to that ridge.
Yeah, and even just for playback, you imagine if you go back and look at a previous stream and you have the two players who are playing this game of Halo, but you've also got the game recorded in such a way that you can just project it on a HoloLens table and zoom in anywhere.
Right.
That would be really...
Change your perspective. I mean, you
absolutely.
could look I'm going to look behind player 2's shoulder. I'm going to look behind player 1. I'm going to look over his head.
And imagine fast forwarding, going back and forth in the action. It's that'd be really, really cool.
The future is now, guys. I can't wait for this to actually be a thing, because this sounds so cool. I'm excited. I mean, I'm looking at my son's table full of Legos right here, and it's like, I mean, that's HoloLens Minecraft. I'm looking at it right now in Lego form. Now, if I can only just play it with a controller.
Yeah. The other side of that is it something that you would spend, the $600 or $800 on?
Hey, well, let's not get hung up on the price here, Terrigan. Some things are just super cool, and then we'll just be happy with spending however much money. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I think, Microsoft's goal will be to get the HoloLens inexpensive enough where a lot of people can have them, provided they want to make it a useful function and feature, and then not abandon it like the Kinect.
Yeah, or maybe they'll have the Xbox 2 and have it as a bundled thing that's required for the Xbox 2 to work or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if they could get support...
that strategy will work, sure.
If they could get support from the business community, or show how the productivity part of it is working, and maybe they can drive the costs down a little bit because they're charging IBM or whoever millions for using their stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of the gains will be just in getting the manufacturing down. That's generally where they get a lot of their gains of cost changes and so forth. It's just they manufacture better over time as they get better at it.
Absolutely. Jack, you got some connections. Have you seen a HoloLens? Have you been able to work with any at all?
No.
Has everyone in the TA office got one?
Oh, yeah, of course. It's,
got them on your shows.
On your private yachts. And,
Oh, definitely. That's, yeah. No, I haven't actually been following HoloLens too much. So I've actually had a bit more interest in the Oculus Rift.
Absolutely.
So I used to, they had a developer kit at my university, which was quite good, that you could hire out for periods at a time. And
have you played it?
I've had a quick go on one of them.
Yeah? Was it? Did you get nauseous?
No.
Okay.
Although an event I went to previously, I think it was IGX in London, they had people using Oculus Rifts and in chairs that were also rotating and moving and spinning. I think that's the volatile combination.
That sounds terrible. It's like a rotisserie.
So yeah, I'm just imagining the space flight test simulator with a HoloLens,
right?
Getting people to flip upside down.
A person like painting a little line on the floor, like the spray zone of potential fluids.
It'll be like do you guys know who Gallagher is? He was a comedian who smashed things on stage, and everyone in the front seats had to wear ponchos because he would just explode things. That's what it would be like. It's like, yeah, you gotta watch the Oculus demo. Here's your poncho. It's a puke guard.
And safety glasses.
Right? Yeah, I'd love to get my hands on one of those too. We actually had one. There was an Extra Life event here in Minneapolis, and we rented out an Oculus. I think we did the spaceship. What is it called? The holodeck, the control center simulator type thing, and it was super popular. I mean, tons of people are showing up to play that. So I can only imagine how much fun it is to really immerse yourself in a world like that.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. To the point where I've had one in a basket on the Oculus Rift site for the past week.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last show as well. In the show notes, the Zero Latency. They're a mob in Melbourne, Australia, and they've got a room set up where you have up to 6 players with Oculus Rifts set up in a zombie survival kind of genre, area, and you've essentially got a zone that you can walk around in. So you're free walking with an Oculus Rift and a gun with other people. They're projected into your kind of game space, and you've got to fight off hordes of zombies in various different scenarios. And it is extremely scary. you don't think it would happen, but that time you turn around and there's a zombie right in your face, the first time you sort of go is
I would scream.
You just don't think you're going to get that immersed, but you do.
I would scream like a little girl. I mean, I just hate scare. Like, I love playing Resident Evil, but playing Resident Evil 1 when that red-faced zombie climbs up and chases after you, I nearly cried. I mean, that was terrifying. And imagine a jump scare where it's literally attacking you. There's not even a screen in front of me. Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. So I don't know any good transitions from that, so I'm just going to move into
I'm sure there's zombies in IDARB.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So IDARB got its long-awaited title update this week. It was mentioned back in September about what they were going to do. Well, it finally came through. A couple of the highlights, you now have AI teammates, which, it adds more to the game, so you can play if you enjoy playing the game. Here's the beauty. This is a remarkably easy 1K, or at least it was back when it first came out in February. It has since changed, but there are a few tricky achievements to kind of keep your eyes out on. Mainly the ones that involve Kinect, because you had to print off a QR code and scan them into your Kinect. And so the new people who don't have Kinects, or the individuals who just don't want to do that, or were trying to scan it off their screen, because I know my printer upstairs barely has paper in it ever, but trying to get it off the screen, it was kind of a pain. It works, but it was a pain. Guess what? They have now opened what they're calling the trading post, where the way it sounds, I have yet to play it, the way it sounds is you can trade these QR code type things between others. So, and they specifically say this is for unlocking the achievements without Kinect. So if you skip this game because you didn't have, the last 4, you couldn't get your hands on a Kinect, you now have an opportunity to go grab those achievements. They also included Kinect-enabled hash bombs. So, you can yell into your Kinect and have it do something on the screen. They've added a ton more hash bombs as well. There is an achievement for, I think it's hashtag achievement. I bet you could say hashtag achievement and get an achievement. Now, how great would that be? So, again, I haven't tested that out, so I don't know. I've already unlocked it. But
it's almost like Xbox, unlock achievements.
Right? The future. This is great. That's exactly what we want. Bring on the shovelware. So if you've left that game in your backlog because, it's just a pain to get those Kinect achievements, go back, download the title update. It didn't add any new achievements, unfortunately. But hopefully these will be easier for you, for those Kinect-less individuals out there. And if you never got this game initially, I don't know what the price is now. I think it was $15. It was Games with Gold back in February of last year, but super easy 1K. I mean, there's a couple wonky ones, but we're talking hour, 2 hours to get the 1K. And you can boost them easy. You can do them all solo, pretty much. There's one 2-player achievement, and you could do it. You can boost it with 2 controllers, no problem.
I might put that on the list for a boot camp at some point.
That's a great one for a boot camp. So stay tuned.
Particularly with the updates.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll walk through it at some point. Now, one thing that they did mention in the September news article of this update is that they're going to have the Windows 10 crossplay. Now, in this most recent update, the notes, there is no mention of the Windows 10 crossplay. It is something we know they're working on, and it should be coming soon, but again, didn't go live. Now, what I don't know for sure, but it does appear that this Windows 10 is probably going to be a separate version, which leads me to think that it is a stack. Now, that might not be the case because it's crossplay. What do you guys think? Do you think if it's crossplay, then we're going to get the same list between the two?
I think there's actually a chance it could share the list, because with the achievement changes you mentioned earlier, that seems to almost preempt the release on the Windows 10, because you don't have access to Kinect and...
Although I wonder if it'll be like a lot of the other Windows 10 games that have lists with other versions where they've got separate lists, but they cross-unlock. So it may well be a separate list, but you go to the Windows 10 version as soon as you sign on, it unlocks all of the achievements. That would be, best case scenario for Gamerscore hunters, but it'd be interesting to see what happens.
I suppose one other scenario they could take is like the stealth game. They removed the achievement that was online for that on the Xbox One. So the Windows 10 version has just one less achievement, same amount of gamer score, just distributed differently across the achievements.
Yeah.
So why do you think they would do? Why do they have separate lists in the first place? Is it a tracking thing? They want to know how many people are using Windows 10 versus the Xbox, or I assume they have data to show where it was unlocked.
Yeah, I think they just generally split. There are very few games which have a shared achievement list across different platforms anyway, so I think that Shadowrun might be the only one I can sort of actually think of off the top of my head.
Pinball Effects 2, Xbox One and Windows 10.
Yep. So, they're out there, but I think they generally try and separate them. I'm not really sure why, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe just to get you to buy more.
Well, it could be down to the development process as well. It might be easier to just develop distinctly for one platform and then port that over. Or
the new development stuff they're pushing is to have a single release kind of thing going on. So I think the dev kit's set up there so you can release for the Xbox One as well as Windows Phone 10 as well as Windows 10 itself and have the same release. So I wonder if that's, if they have a single achievement list for that or not. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess maybe it's just down to development and how they happen to roll it out. And there may be some achievements that are just not viable on one platform or another. And then in those cases, they have to release a separate list because they can't just kind of exclude one achievement.
I suppose we're kind of at the start of the life for Windows 10 as such anyway, because we've only seen a handful of games that release on it. So it'll be interesting to see the path it takes in the future if they do start combining them more frequently.
Yeah, I suppose we'll have to wait and see. The last bit of news, and Jack, you can probably feed in on this one as well. The site leaderboard, the annual leaderboards, which was quite awesome. I saw those when it came out, and found myself to be number 19, I think, in Australia for 2015, which was quite nice. I'm certainly not. I don't consider myself particularly high on the whole achievements on the Gamerscore tracking compared to other people, but looking at that and comparing myself to other Aussies, I went, I'm actually not doing too bad. But that was a really, really cool feature. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more about it. What was the work involved behind the scenes for that one? Because it was new, obviously.
So for this development, it's actually mainly Rich that's been involved with this one. So I've been squirreled away working on the Steam scanners for the past couple of weeks. So I've had some stability tweaks and improvements to make to those. But in terms of this, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was
there's so much data.
SQL, getting that sorted to build the.
I guess it's all static data too by now, because you just basically say, okay, start point, end point, 4-person, set it all up, and once you've got the data there, it's just done. But no, it's a really cool feature. I presume you'll be doing it for 2016 and on.
Yeah, I think we're planning to backdate it too.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So you should see 2014, 2013, etc. pop up at some point in the future. Not too sure when we're going to do that, but that's a bit of an inside scoop.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, Rich loves his data, so he's got to use it.
Definitely.
There's so much there. I mean, there's so many filtering options. It's amazing. Well, that's awesome. And you guys, you have done so much with that site over the past year, and I know we mentioned in our previous show, but kudos to you guys on all the improvements you've done to TA. The integration across the board is fantastic. So what we'd love to do is, as part of our feature content here, is maybe pick Jack's brain a little bit and have a bit of an interview and go into what we affectionately refer to as regional stacks, because I'm sure he's got some fantastic information. So, with that said, let's move into the interview. Okay, so we've taken Jack out of the happy-go-lucky co-host, and we've put him into the grinding hot seat of this interview. I need to start, so I'm looking at my clock, and it's midnight where I am, which means it's 6 a.m. where you are, so you're either up too late, up too early, or you're a nocturnal creature and it's actually dinner time. So can you confirm, of those three, what are you?
I actually got up just before this podcast and had some dinner. So,
so what does that mean?
a bit of everything.
So I decided to. I thought I'd fall asleep and end up accidentally sleeping through it if I didn't have some sleep beforehand, because I've had been up on Destiny a lot this week. And,
that's a horrible mistress.
Yeah, well, I've been playing it with Dave Kinetic over on TA, and we've got into really bad habits. He'll kind of send me a Skype message at 1:30 in the morning, be like, "Oh, you up for some Destiny?" But we'll both be on until kind of 5:30 in the morning. Which
it's the only way to play. You just need that basement.
It's just difficult when you work 9 to 5. So.
Well, but aren't you playing with Rich as well? I mean, you get to play with your boss, right? And say, hey, well, I'm getting real sick, so
he's not as much as a night owl.
No.
So he's been on a couple of times with us, but Dave and I have kind of played together quite a bit more. So.
Sure.
I guess he has kids. So,
oh, that's right.
I don't know if you and Dave do, but.
Well, Dave doesn't. He has a full-time job as well, so I don't know how he does it either. Okay. But obviously have one of those commitments, but...
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? It turns out those kids really get in the way sometimes. You got to raise them to be gamers.
Grind gamer score out for you.
Absolutely,
yeah, that's the way.
Absolutely. So let's do a little bit more of a proper intro. You guys all know him as WebChimp UK. You can find him on the TA, TrueAchievements.com. You do so much for that site. First question: are you indeed human, or are you actually a chimpanzee?
I'm indeed human.
Woohoo!
So,
I mean, I've seen Planet of the Apes. I mean, there's some eloquent apes eventually.
And do you in fact have a web?
No.
That's disappointing.
To build on from that point, though, coincidentally, I don't use any. I used to use a monkey gamer picture on Xbox Live, but kind of my avatar everywhere else is penguins in top hats. So kind of
that makes total sense.
Trying to go around all the animals.
That's fantastic. So let's learn a little bit about you, Jack. So we've heard you on the TA podcast. You enjoy recording. You like to sweep in and be a part of that production.
Yeah, it's all good fun. So it's quite infrequent when I can join it. It's kind of dependent on who else is about, who's doing it.
time zones, whether you're awake from Destiny or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether Rich has handcuffed you to a desk.
Yeah, he's standing there cracking the whip. And whether I've actually played anything either, because I tend to find I've slipped out of gaming a little bit now. I'm kind of getting back into it, but it's been quite a while since I've kind of had time to sit down and properly get into a game. So.
Oh, and you picked a doozy, that's for sure.
Indeed.
So I guess obviously you develop for the True Achievements website, but so what else do you do when you're not gaming? What other kind of hobbies do you have?
I suppose just Java programming is something I'm really interested in. So I've come from kind of a programming background, I suppose. I have a degree in computer games programming, which is pretty cool. Quite unconventional, but quite cool. So that's given me quite a grounded knowledge in a lot of programming languages. So I'm pretty good at Java, but I mainly work in C++. And use kind of 3D graphics libraries like DirectX 11, stuff like that. And I've done quite a lot of programming for GPUs and parallelism on GPUs, which is a nightmare.
Yeah, I know. I've only dabbled in that stuff, and it just is a real, really screws your head around if you're trying to get on.
Did a dissertation on it, so that's all good fun, eh? So nice to learn something. But so apart from that's just kind of gaming, programming, and so they're really the main hobbies. So that's about it.
So, well, what's it like working at True Achievements, the high-flying, glamorous world that it is? And do you actually have your own yacht?
Yes, definitely. Got 2 yachts.
So one's the True Achievement branded one, and one's the personal one.
Yeah,
right?
No, one's for Saturday, Sunday yacht, and one's just for standard weekday. You know,
that's your daily driver.
No, it's been really fun. So I started about 7 months ago.
I think you were the third official employee for True Achievements, if I remember.
Yep. So I'm the third developer, but now we're back down to 2. So it's just myself and Rich again.
Okay.
And I started about 7 months ago. So before that, though, to kind of jump back a little bit, I kind of always volunteered on the site, and I joined the game information team and kind of worked my way up to the management position of that.
Yep.
And got involved with the development of the Xbox One app for the True Achievements site. So that's kind of where Rich figured out I could program, and I actually had something to offer.
Yeah, and being in the UK helps as well.
Definitely. So we got chatting after that, obviously, and I finished university, and a week after that I moved kind of 160 miles south and started working at TA Towers. So...
It's fantastic.
So it's been great though. All good fun.
So being there now, if it's just the two of you, what's it like being low man on the totem pole? I mean, you're getting coffee all the time. You giving back rubs,
cleaning the yachts,
right? Swabbing the poop deck.
Well, we kind of just quite level. It's there's no kind of like power struggle or anything, so to speak. We just kind of chuck ideas back and forth, work on sometimes the same things, sometimes different things, kind of whatever we want to, whatever's kind of vital for the week to get done. So that's good though, it's great. Best first job I've ever had.
Yeah, I'd say.
I have to say that since you've come on, particularly the number of features that have come out on True Achievements has really sort of started to accelerate, I guess, and that's been really good to see. I feel Rich had a hell of a lot on his plate before that, and so it was kind of meant that the site could stagnate a bit over time, and so there'd be a few sort of rollouts of big features, because I think he was basically fighting fires a lot of the time. And since you've come on, it's been really, really good to see a lot of really good advancements come out.
Yeah. we've kind of made quite a lot of technology switches as well, which is great, and I think it's kind of improving our development workflow a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of allowing us to alleviate some of the older pressures and just kind of move forward.
Sure.
Hopefully stuff's looking a lot prettier too.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys do you spend a lot of your time still fighting fires? I mean, is there still a lot of things that come up that you have to deal with, or are you able to, maybe get to that point where things have kind of leveled off? Things are built and you're comfortable with it, and now you can be innovative and come up with all these new things? Because, like Terrian said, you guys have been firing them out fast and furious.
So when we're kind of developing, we've always got all 3 sites in mind. So it kind of increases the complexity from that standpoint. So if we kind of add a feature for TA, we want to try and add it for True Trophies and True Steam as well, if we can.
Yeah.
And that can be a bit problematic with some of the lack of data some of the APIs provide for the other sites. So it's not always great, but it's not too bad. It's kind of nice being able to build for one and roll out across all 3, which is good. It's a combined code base.
Yeah. It wasn't initially, as I think I recall, the True Trophies initially was a bit of a fork off the main code base, and I suppose you've kind of merged that back in now. Is it all so it's all one now, which I guess that would make transitioning things a lot easier.
Yeah, it's all one now, so that's it's nice just kind of being able to say this page is for this site. Don't allow people to go to this page on this site and stuff like that.
And bug fixes, you fix it on one side, it's fixed for all of them. Which would be great.
Yeah, exactly. So, and obviously some of the bugs reside in the SQL side of things, so that doesn't even need a site update if we do fix it, which is always great because it means we can push the fixes out quicker, make the community happy quicker.
Yeah,
absolutely.
SQL for the uninitiated, or for people who aren't programmers, is
like
a database. Yeah, it's a database programming, or it's basically the database query language. It's how you get data out of a database.
Gotcha. So you had mentioned that there were some challenges with the APIs on. I assume you're referring to the True Steam side of it, but maybe even the PlayStation side of it. What kind of challenges are you talking about?
Yeah. So in terms of PlayStation side, they're just quite limited in terms of the data that we can actually get back from them. So it's not always great. It's not always. It just kind of causes issues. But in terms of Steam. They do have APIs available, but again, they're quite limited in terms of data, and we're kind of the scanning process is a bit convoluted because there's certain calls to make to get timestamps back. Some API calls don't return timestamps. Some API calls just fail if you pass in totally correct data, and then you have to request it through a different API call. It's kind of figuring out the balance between hitting a game, data coming back incorrectly, then which proper call to use after that. So trying to kind of automate that process so that they're self-healing, I suppose.
Yep. That sounds not a lot of fun. It sounds from the little I know of the Microsoft APIs that they kind of built with the Xbox One, that would probably be a lot simpler to work with than. And I gather as well from my own understanding that the PlayStation side of things, they're not really very supportive of that kind of those kind of calls. They don't really seem to support the community or websites getting data out of their APIs much.
Yeah, that's a very fair comment. But hopefully they'll improve in the future, and it should help all sites like ours push forward. And
it's only really in their best interests anyway to get people more excited about their platform if that kind of information's out there. I don't see why they wouldn't. So kind of baffles me, their attitude. Anyway, I guess moving on, we'll get to some more sort of generalized kind of questions about you. It's sort of always interesting to me just to hear about people's sort of first gaming experiences. So I guess, how did you first get into gaming as a whole? What was kind of your beginning point?
So I've got 2 older brothers, and they were kind of always into gaming. So from a young age, I kind of had access to. We have a Super Nintendo, entertainment system. That was kind of a starting point. Then moved on to the Nintendo 64. My brothers both moved on to the GameCube after that, and I went down the Sony route. So I got a PlayStation 1 and then transitioned to the PlayStation 2. And at that point, my oldest brother, he had got the an original Xbox. And I decided to transition over to the 360 when he got his 360.
Okay.
So it's kind of my first foray into the Microsoft console. And I was quite a late starter, I think. I think I picked one up in 2008, potentially. So a couple of years after launch. But before that, I just kind of... I did play video games, and I used to play a lot of Half-Life 2 Deathmatch on the PC. Got about 800 hours playtime on that, or something stupid. But then
You'll be catching up to that on Destiny in no time.
And I started up the Xbox 360 then, and then played Hexic and heard that like bloop bloop sound. So and
it
then I was
begins.
hooked. It began. So what a mistake.
And that's how it all began with the Gamer Score.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to a little bit more about our sort of feature topic, which is just about the regional, some of the regional changes that have been happening on True Achievements. But to get into that, basically, I'll just describe what a regional stack is. So a regional stack is, well, firstly we have to describe what is a stack, a game stack. So games can be released multiple times. In some instances, they're given a completely separate achievement list. This effectively means you can double up on the gamer score, which is great for us gamer score junkies, of course. When this happens, it's referred to as a stack because you're essentially stacking another set of achievements on top of achievements that you already have and getting double the gamer score, or in some cases triple or even more. A regional stack refers to when this is done for regional purposes, such as when a game is re-released for a specific region with its own achievement list. Usually this occurs due to localization, so like a language changes or voiceover changes, things like that. And in some cases, it also happens because of censorship reasons. So say Germany, for example, is a fairly highly censored region, and so they will have things cut out of a game, and in that case, they need to re-release the game, and often with their own set of achievements. Some good examples of regional variants would be the CNET series, which have they've got about 5 or 6 versions of CNET Bright Lights, just for different regions. They've got different movies for each and every different region. All of the languages all localized. Also, BioShock has a number of different regional variants as well, including a very rare Korean version, which I think we will be working on together, Jack, at some point. So I guess I know that Randy and yourself, Jack, have been working on changing some of the regional tagging on True Achievements, and I just wanted to go through some of that. Unfortunately, Randy couldn't make it today, but if you could maybe just sort of go into a bit of detail on what's been happening behind the scenes there and what we can expect.
So one of the things we always kind of strive for in terms of game information on site is accuracy. And we've kind of, as regional games have released, they've kind of been tagged, and it's great, but some of the tags aren't as great as they could be. Is the base of it, really. So we figured we'd go through and tidy it up, and we've kind of checked every single variant that I've queried the database to pull back all the games that are regional. And we've checked all of those as accurately as we can, and we're going to basically be updating the flags to try and make it easier for people to see what games the region or what regions the games are actually available for. And we haven't actually updated this on site yet, but I'm going to I just need to import the data, then run a quick query at some point over the weekend and update them all in one fell swoop rather than doing it manually, which is always nicer.
For sure. Yeah, because there were a certain number of odd variants. Like there's quite a number of them which are just like an Asian version or something like that. And the EUJP versions of games I note there's also the Chinese version of games, which is not actually technically a Chinese version, and that's being complicated with the Xbox One Chinese console too.
So on the Xbox 360, the console itself was actually never released in mainland China officially.
But I think it was available in Hong Kong, and that's...
Yeah, so it's available in Hong Kong, but not kind of mainland. So we're separating China from Hong Kong with the tags now. That's one step we're going to take. Because there is a bit of a difference there, and it's subtle. But I think it's worth noting, at least. So a couple of... I wanted to give you an idea of some of the Dynasty Warriors games. We originally had those tagged as Chinese. Those are going to be switching to Hong Kong and Taiwan.
Yep. Now, that's those kind of changes, they're going to be just within the name of the game. Is there going to be any sort of, or is there future plans for actually having a separate field, like a new database field for that kind of thing that you can query on?
Yeah, so that's definitely a plan I've got for the future, and I'd love to basically change the system over so we have flags displayed next to the game instead.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So not only would it look better, it would just look better, really. It makes searching a tad more difficult, but that can obviously be overcome by manually kind of adding the regions in still, and then we could just pick that up and kind of highlight the flag or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are ways to work around that. It just adds another layer of complexity, but it's nothing that can't be handled, which is great.
Well, I actually would have thought the queries would have been simpler because you've got a field for that in the database to query against, rather than having to do essentially a text query against the name.
Anyway, let me step in as a complete chumbalone when it comes to what you're talking about. So, I mean, what even triggers? You had made some good comments about what the regional variations or things like that. But ultimately, like, what is it? Is it something in the code that just says, yeah, this is different, there's a number different, and so this is why it's got a different list?
So one of the big reasons Tarragon has touched on is kind of differences between localizations in countries and differences between content in the games too. So some stuff, for example, some of the German versions of games, Germany have much stricter policies when it comes to what content is allowed to be in games, really. Yeah,
I suspect anything that has a Nazi flag or anything to do with that is very restricted within Germany. In fact, I'm not even sure they're allowed to show it unless it's a historical sort of thing. So anything like that's stripped. Australia as well also had some restrictions there too. There's a few infamous examples.
Your vitamins.
Yeah, yeah. We can't have anything showing drugs or illicit drugs being used in a way that's beneficial. So anything that sort of refers to drugs inside Australia is referred to as vitamins or supplements or that kind of thing. It's one of those subtle changes.
Mm-hmm.
What about BioShock? Any idea what's different in that one? I mean,
I'm actually not too sure. I played the Korean version of BioShock, and it seems to be exactly the same. But there might be something that's been removed or changed.
So something quite strange about the regional variants of BioShock. I believe this is one of the games where the developers were a tad lazy, and half of the game's localized, and then it switches back to English halfway through. Which is
like we can only afford to get the translations done for half the game. Oh well.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe they thought the popularity would be low and people would only bother kind of playing the first half.
Just put the rest into Google Translate and that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Let the computer do the rest.
Yeah, I guess from just addressing the sort of more technical side of the question there that you asked for him, when there is a regional stack, it actually does, like every game on the system actually ends up with a game ID. They have a separate number for each and every game, and that goes for actually every achievement list So when a game is seen by True Achievements, for example, and they see the regular version and then the EU version, they're actually completely separate games as far as the systems are concerned and as far as Xbox is concerned. They are separate games.
Sure.
And in fact, you've run into complications with that with multiplayer, for example. The multiplayer across, say, BioShock Korean versus the BioShock US, the multiplayer is not compatible because those game IDs are different. They will only allow multiplayer between the same ID of game.
Is that common?
So, yeah.
Where they put the walls up?
Basically no multiplayer will work between different game IDs.
Sure.
It's just, it doesn't happen. The only time you ever see that kind of thing happen is when the game ID happens to be the same, and a game will have a look at, say, Shadowrun, for example, that has common multiplayer between PC and Xbox, but that's because they share the same game ID and the same achievement list.
Right.
I don't know. There might be examples now with the Windows 10 kind of cross-play to other versions of games on Xbox One. They may have a separate achievement list but have cross-play between them.
Mm-hmm.
But that sort of remains to be seen, I guess.
Interesting. So, like, when you send a query into, to get an achievement list, does it, in my head, it doesn't sound like it's going to be simple like, hey, here's the EU version. Bloop, there you go. My guess is it comes back to you not looking that nice, and you've got to work with it, or am I off base?
You're pretty close. Jack, if you want to go for that one?
So it depends on which regionality you request for data, really, and what API endpoint you're using. So you get different things back. So if I request the Japanese information, sometimes it'll return Japanese information. Sometimes it'll return English information.
So how good's your kanji? Are you pretty boned up on your...
Not great. Not great at all. So,
yeah, I guess that's the thing. You can make those queries in different, I think part of the Xbox spec, and I've dug around in it a bit, they usually release a bunch of localizations within games anyway. In fact, all of the achievement lists often have localized versions of all of the achievement names. So you can go and query and say, I want to see what the achievement names are in Spanish, and you'll get the Spanish versions of the achievement names and so forth.
Well, that makes sense.
So I think what sort of happens is you query, say if it was a Japanese release-only game, you wouldn't get a response from, say, a US API. Would that be sort of correct?
You'd still get a response from it.
Okay.
It just potentially come back in Japanese.
Oh, right. That's interesting. Yeah. So it's not, obviously it's not terribly clear. I think from my time working in Game Info, basically what would happen is you'd have a new list of the same achievements come up for the same game, and you have to then work out where it comes from, what this version is. Sometimes you'd even go down the path of looking at who's been playing it and working out what country they're from, and that sometimes gives you an indicator of where that release actually comes from in the end. So it can be quite tricky. They're not obvious.
Quite a good example of this actually is with Mafia 2. We currently have it flagged as the Russian version on site, and that was actually a little bit incorrect because it's actually a Eastern European release. So it's available in quite a lot. So I think it's Czechoslovakia, Slovenia, parts of Russia, parts of Poland, so on and so on.
And knowing that information too is very handy if you actually want to try and get a hold of a copy, because previously you'd just be looking in Russia and.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the way the misinformation came about on that version, there was actually a Russian-only PC release of a complete edition. And I think people have just attributed and kind of gone, oh, there's a complete edition for this version too. They must be the same. And in reality, they're entirely different, obviously different platforms. And it does make sense in this case for it to be Eastern European, though, because the developer themselves are Czechoslovakian. Ported that version, so it's makes sense for do it in their for their own country too, almost, right? In a way.
Yeah. I thought you said earlier that you didn't care for phishing. That sounds exactly like what you're doing. You send a line out, you get something on the other end, and you say, "Where did this come from?"
Well, guess it's technically fishing and hunting because you're going to fish for information and then hunt for a copy.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So that kind of leads into the next question then. So with, as TA rolls out all of these, region flags and identifies these region stacks, how can a consumer go and find those items? Like, oh, yeah, this version of the game, I loved this game. I'll go play it again for another 1,000 gamer score. So how can I do that?
That's a very, very good question, and I think that's something that we were gonna cover with Crandy in particular.
Oh, he's the guy, huh? You got to know a guy.
We'll do a special on that because it really depends on the titles. Sorry, I'm jumping all over you here, Jack. But
that's fine.
It really depends on the title. Some are harder to find than others. Some are exceedingly rare. I can.
Some Japanese titles are even region free, so you can play it on any console you want.
See, that's the key. Now with Xbox,
it was released.
Well, that's something I wanted to bring up. There's a possible future feature or a feature request I have. And I'm springing this on you once more. But Crandy and myself actually have a bit of a side project. We haven't worked on it for a while, but basically we've been going through a lot of Xbox 360 titles and just testing them in the three sort of console regions. So your NTSC, your PAL, and your NTSC-J, just seeing which ones work in which regions. It would be really super cool if we could basically have that kind of thing as data in True Achievements, and I could go, okay, for a PAL console, I just say, okay, flag all of the games that can be played on a PAL console and just have that list come up. I think that'd be really useful. Is that sort of something you'd look at doing in the future?
Potentially. So the main thing I think about when it comes down to adding any extra additional information to game info now is how can we automate the process?
Right.
Because I kind of love the community kind of aspect and like the community going out and finding like yourself and Crandy, going out and testing the games. But if kind of other people want to start doing that, there needs to kind of be some consistency with the testing and making sure that it's actually the correct version of the game. And there's kind of a lot of almost subtlety that can go into that testing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You kind of need, for that particular info, you almost need to have dedicated people who will test those things because otherwise, you can get lots of bad info. And that leads to people buying games based upon bad info, which is the last thing you really want.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of sounds like the flag submission team, though, right? I mean, is it something similar to that? Where, this achievement's unmissable or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
I think flags is kind of a little bit different. I think they're a bit, if one's kind of wrong, a little bit off, obviously can make a submission and we'll check it out and look into it and tweak it if needs be. But I think having a flag wrong is a little bit less severe than somebody going out and buying kind of a expensive Korean version of a game that they can't play.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. But the automation process of it could follow a similar mold. It's just you would then need to have on-site trusted moderators to go in and take a look at whether that data is indeed accurate.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I think with myself, Crandy, and I think there's a few other people we could certainly lean on for that kind of information, we'd actually probably be able to cover the entire spectrum of Xbox 360 titles amongst us and test them all. Because I know, there's Cool Kid Joe. He's got every single game, and he's obviously had every single console. So it'd be a matter of anything we don't have ourselves, we can certainly lean on other people to get that information. And that would be very cool. It'd be also cool to do that kind of thing with, say, the Xbox One Chinese console. If I could say, okay, what games are only playable on the Chinese Xbox One, and just have a filter that list. That would be, because I'm actually looking into getting one, so knowing what games can be played on it. Yes.
Are you going to plump for Halo the Master Chief Collection?
Yes, probably. In fact, it's I'm going Harvey's with a friend, so he'll end up with it. But he's keen. He's one of the potentially endless bean divers. So he wants those ones so he can continue his endless bean dive with titles that are extremely difficult. And I've got my own agenda of getting games that are extremely either unpopular or rare on my gamer tag. So the Halo Master Chief Collection Chinese version is one of those.
Yeah. That's going to be a difficult completion too. Again, multiplayer servers are locked down for that, aren't they?
Exactly. Yep. So you have to find at least 4 or 8 other people who have the Chinese version and Chinese consoles.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a difficult feat in itself.
Yes.
Looks like you need a TA boosting session.
Yep.
Get that up and running. Look at all the site functionality we got.
Yeah. On just the last thing I'm sort of noting on the changes that you've previewed for me here, the actual branding of the alternate versions, they're going to what looks like in most cases a 2-character branding rather than the 3.
The way I'm actually thinking of doing it is initially swapping it back over, keeping it as 3 characters and doing a blanket change on all of them, and then kind of leaving it a couple of days, then doing a change over to 2 characters. Okay. Along with any SEO changes that need doing.
Yep.
So
it's good old SEO.
Ease confusion a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
obviously with some of the titles changed, like Bionic Commando, we've always known that as German and Japanese, but in reality it's most likely German, like we're 99% certain it's German, Japanese and Korean. Which is quite interesting in terms of that's due to the data that returns from their APIs. So we've obviously got a couple of other interesting ones like Carnival Games, Monkey See, Monkey Do Taiwan edition. So it turns out the edition that you can buy digitally in Taiwan is the international version from their marketplace.
Right. So the disc version.
The disc version is the Taiwanese release, and that's the only way to get that version.
Wow.
So,
and that makes that one of those rare titles.
Yeah. Is there a way to pick up a box and see it and say, "Oh yeah, that's the version"? Like if somebody shipped one to me, how do I know I'm not getting bamboozled? Because I know the code will be different, but can I see that from the outside?
Yeah. Depends on the game again.
Darn it.
Something like Korean Wall-E. It's got the logo on the front in Korean. So that's kind of almost a definite.
That's usually a good giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas others, is it Soldier of Fortune? Is that
Well, that was the Australian version, wasn't it? And
they had the Australian stack, and it is impossible to tell from the outside or looking at the disc or anything whether or not it's the Australian version. And I've actually got them. I've got both of them, and eyeballing them, you would not be able to tell from the outside which one's which.
Ridiculous.
The only way to do it is to actually put it in the Xbox and look at the achievement list, and if it's got one less achievement than the other, then you know which version it is.
So the thing that happened with that, they initially released in Australia, didn't they? The specific Australian version, that was the first release, first batch that went out. And then about a month later, it got switched to the international. Yeah,
it's weird. They released a sort of one to get past the censors, and then they backtracked on that. I don't know whether or not that just got they appealed it or something like that, and it got turned over. But yeah, there was the initial version, and then the later release, which was the same as the international version. And yeah, you cannot tell the difference.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I think it's similar to there's a French-Canadian release of CNIT, and the only way to tell the difference on that is the barcode number.
So it doesn't have any. It's not in French in the.
I think it was just released in Quebec.
Okay, so they didn't release it in France as well.
No,
Interesting. Okay.
So one game they did do that.
That's right. There is actually a French version of one of those, isn't there? Yeah. And a French Canadian version, just to make things even more complicated.
My goodness.
So another game slightly similar is Turning Point: Fall of Liberty. So this is one we've always had tagged on site as French and German, and it turns out it's actually French, German, and Canadian French. So basically, regions are a minefield, and
and the interesting thing about that one, that particular version, because there is a Canadian, like the French Canadian version, that's actually NTSC, whereas the French and the German version will of course be PAL. So you've got that. That would be pretty confusing if somebody picked up a copy of that and it was NTSC, but it's listed as only being French and German, which means it should be PAL, so what the hell's going on? That makes more sense when you've got the French-Canadian version of that, of course.
So are all of these regional stacks going to show up in the game series on the TA page?
They already do.
So
yeah, they're already there. It's actually there is an option you can set, I think, to basically combine all those down into a single kind of game, I think, or you can divide them out in your list.
So what game has the most?
The way the series page works, just to kind of give a bit of an overview on that, if you view the page and you haven't played a game in the series, it will take the one with the highest TA or the highest game score, dependent on your site settings, and it will only put one of the versions in. So say we have, if I go to the Trials series, there's Trials Fusion on the Xbox One and Trials Fusion on the Xbox 360. The Xbox One version, I've got more TA in, so it swaps it out and removes the Xbox 360 version from there. But if I looked at it as a logged out user, I'd see the Xbox 360 version there instead, because it has a higher TA score.
Gotcha.
But over on the top right, there's a View Options panel, and you can change the inclusion settings to all, and that'll display every single variant in the game.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did because I wanted to see every single version of the Batman games I'd done.
So talking about that, Batman's probably the largest stack, isn't it?
No, actually, I was looking at it's close, but I think I'm just looking at the CNET games. The CNET Bright Lights Big Screen, I think, has probably the most variants. Just looking at the list here, because you've got the French Canadian, the Spanish version, the European General version, which may be something else there. French version, German version, Italian version, and then of course the US version. So there's at least 6 or it's like 7 or 8 stacks there. Whereas I think Batman Arkham Asylum had the 2 on Xbox, the 2 on PC, and they had the Japanese version as well. So it's only 5, not including PlayStation, of course.
Can you throw the Game of the Years in there? Or
that's what I mean by the second version. So you've got the standard version, Game of the Year version. The PC had the two as well. So the regular version and the Game of the Year version, and then the Japanese version.
So to give you an idea on just the PlayStation perspective on this, over on TT, we have a game with 9 platform and regional variants.
Oh my god!
Wow!
This is called Akiba's Trip: Undead and Undressed. And there's a PlayStation 3 version, a Vita version, a Korean and Chinese PlayStation 3 version, a Korean and Chinese Vita version, Japanese versions, and just a million versions of it.
That sounds like a monster.
Definitely.
Well, I can see how this could be quite the project to tackle. There's a lot of goofy variations out there, but plenty of gamer score to be had.
For sure.
Definitely.
And particularly if you happen to be a Batman fan like me, it's great news.
Yeah, I actually picked up the Batman PC games a couple of months ago, the Game of the Year and the non-Game of the Year.
Yep, did you get the discs? Because the digital versions get auto-patched by Steam now, which is really annoying.
I actually had the digital versions, and I bought them years ago, and I had my Steam in offline mode for about 12 months with the intention of playing them, and just never got around to it. So I thought, this is the time I've got to give up on this dream now and go and buy the disc versions.
I actually ended up buying Arkham City 3 times, I think, because I had the initial digital version. No, sorry, I had the initial disc version, and then I was unable to get the DLC because I'd signed up for the preview program when they were changing to real currency away from Microsoft points, and that was at the same time they announced they were shutting down the marketplace. And so I was like, oh sweet, I'll go buy the DLC now, but I couldn't because the games for Windows Marketplace did not accept real currency, only Microsoft points. I was in the preview program, I couldn't buy anything. So that was number one. I was locked out of buying the DLC. So I thought, okay, I'll get it off Steam instead. So I got the full version off Steam, was playing through that for a bit, and then they patched it under me, and so I lost access to the last few achievements in that. So I ended up having to buy another copy, the Game of the Year disc version on PC, just so I could get those last 2 achievements. It was
they've made a sucker out of you, haven't they?
That's right.
Yeah, it's good thing I like the game, but I got pretty annoyed with Steam when they did that to me.
Lady, he's putting my kid through college. Good for you, Terrigan. We appreciate that. So, I mean, I think we've destroyed this topic as best we can, but we left the door open for more conversations. Specifically, how do you know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who can get you Korean copies of these games? So we'll have to cover that in a future show. Jack, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we pull you off the hot seat and let you come back to the relaxing waters of hanging out?
One other game I'd quickly want to touch on. So this is quite an interesting re-release, I suppose. So it was the Wolfenstein 3D game that got released. So there are 2 versions available. There's a European and a North American release, and both of them got delisted for a couple of years.
I remember that, yeah.
Well, suddenly one came back, and it was the European version that came back as the international. So the European version is now the version you'll get in America if you download the game.
They released it on the digital marketplace, and you can't actually get the US the US achievements. So I think I was talking with Smirnov about that actually, because he was trying to get hold of it. It's so an interesting phenomenon, that one.
Yeah, so that's obviously we're going to drop the European tag from the version that's currently got it, and it's going to be a one-off case, but add a North American tag to the delisted version.
Because North America is the default for pretty much all the regions there at the moment.
Yep.
Yay, we're the king. No, that's not true. So what's your plans for today, Jack? I mean, it's morning, it's Saturday. You got a fantastic day ahead of you. Sounds like you got to work.
No, I've got to do some GI stuff. I've got a meeting with Jesse in a little bit. Then I've got a gaming session planned for Far Cry 3.
Oh, I just finished that up a couple weeks ago. Missions. Yeah, that's fun.
So looking forward to that. That's when I meant to start and play over Christmas, along with Bioshock 2 Korean. And I had the horrible. I was commuting home, and I was commuting via train, so it was through central London. And got on the train. I had my Japanese console with me, like in my bag, and then I just remembered that Bioshock was still sitting on my desk.
Oh no! Catastrophe!
All of my Christmas plans were cancelled. It's terrible.
That's a huge bummer. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us and breaking this topic down. We really appreciate you spending some time. So thank you much, and we'll come back with our regular closing features. Our first closing feature of the week is our Knobs and Discos Bugs and Glitches section. So, Terrigan, where are those pitfalls this week?
Well, we've only really got one to think about this week. It's Panzer Geeks, which is a new game for Windows Phone. It's free, and it's from Game Troopers, who have games from them have been notorious for having something wrong with the achievements, and this one is no exception. There is a couple of levels in the game which basically either don't work or you can't get stars on them, or there's just nothing in them. So there's actually a few achievements in this game which are a little bit problematic but have workarounds. But one in particular is unobtainable, and that is Down with the Axis of Evil. So that one currently is unobtainable. But the developers themselves have actually been really responsive to this, and there is in fact a thread on trueachievements.com about it, where the developer has been responding. So that should be fixed in good time. But that's the only thing to watch out for at the moment.
Well, fantastic. That's good to hear that you got some developer support trying to clean those things up. We also want to touch on our game delay roundup for this week. Not quite a delay per se, but Gears of War 4 has officially moved up. It was initially slated for holiday 2016, now fall of 2016. That may not have changed the actual date, but it sounds like it did.
What does it actually mean? Because, I mean, as an Australian, holiday and fall 2016 is basically meaningless to me as a time point. So as an American, what does that actually mean? in real
As an
terms.
American, holiday to me is November, which is Thanksgiving and leading into Christmas.
All right.
Fall is September, October, November.
Right.
So it very well could be the same month. Like, hey, we're releasing it in November no matter what. And we're just going to change the wording from holiday to fall.
It's shorter.
It was announced during a live stream event. And so likely the dude knows, yeah, our date is November or whatever. And so he said fall because that is the fall. Anyway, may not, like I said, may not have changed, but Gears of War 4, sounds like they're on track. The other that you may have thought, wait a minute, how did Terrigan play Gone Home? Well, you see, that sneaky Australian went and bought it in the U.S. because the EU and Australian versions were delayed last minute because some ratings and cert issues. The Twitter feed, Gone Home Game, that's the official Twitter feed of the game, broke that news yesterday, or the day when the game launched. Said, "Oh my gosh, sorry, totally apologize." They're thinking it might be maybe a week or two, but they just don't know. There was something that popped up that they couldn't quite get around it with the ratings and certifications.
It's interesting. I just assumed it wasn't going to come out in Australia because quite a number of those ID Xbox games just don't make it. So usually if I look at a new game that's come out and I want to buy it and it's not available in Australia, I just immediately go and get it from the US store because I assume that's the only place I'm going to be able to get it. So
Right.
I think it's only really caught me a couple of times that they've released in Australia later. I tend to try and buy the Australian version if I can. Yeah, anyway.
There you have it. And so finally, our last closing feature, the Zombie News Corner. I've unearthed some zombie news, mainly the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 beta. It went live yesterday, which is Thursday night. And it's going on all weekend, so likely when you're hearing this, it's long gone. I hope you enjoyed it. Game's coming out in February, so you don't have to wait that long. Let's say my experience with the beta is, it is Plants vs. Zombies. If you liked the first game, this is very much like the second game. B, this was very much a beta as I was experiencing horrible lag, unbelievable glitching, and some serious connectivity issues.
So it sounds like a Bethesda game then.
You know, it's funny because I jumped in and I was on the Zombies team multiple times, not by choice, but hey, I'm all thumbs up for it. And so I was trying to play with the new characters, and so I picked the pirate, who, and they've all kind of changed the way that they shoot. They've got a long range option and a short range option. And so I like the pirate. He kind of had, it's not quite a sniper rifle, but it was kind of a long range rifle. And he had that peg leg. And so he's walking around stuttering like you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, wow, so that's the downfall, right? So the pirate can't walk straight. Like, that's why. And then all of a sudden I'm clipping through walls and, dudes are, you Destiny people would love this, blink striking right in front of me like, oh, hey, look, there's a plant and you're dead. I think I went 0 and 12 before I said this is dumb. So hopefully I'm going to try again this weekend, and hopefully they get some stability things in place. If you're gonna launch a beta and you've got beta slapped over everything, great, because if this was launch code, we're in big trouble. I will say though, the hub world, your starting location is kind of cool. You start in you got fortresses, a zombie fortress and a plant fortress, and in there is kind of it's your menu, but you walk around and interface with the items to get to the menu. So Crazy Dave's Winnebago sitting over there, and if you hop in it, you go do some garden ops missions, which were closed. There's his garage. You can go and find something in his garage. That was closed. There's a multiplayer portal. There's also a man cannon or a plant cannon. You jump in it, and it launches you into the middle of the two factions. There's like a line through the middle with a flag, and you can raise the flag, and all of a sudden you start a King of the Hill match in the hub world. And so the zombies come out, try to kill you. You fight waves of them, or real life players if they happen to be around. So it was kind of fun. And then you can build up in-game currency there. Like I said, I'll have to get back into it more, but I was having some serious issues. So hopefully I believe, is this a February 23rd game? I mean, I feel like everything was coming out February 20th. I think it's actually earlier. I think it's like February, the second week in February. But it's coming out soon. Looking forward to it. The second piece of zombie news I wanted to cover, Capcom Vancouver is hiring for two new Unreal 4 projects. This is a studio that's known for their Dead Rising series. And they went out and they said in their job listing, hey, we got two projects going. You have to assume one of them is a Dead Rising game. It's about time for them to be coming up with Dead Rising 4 or Dead Rising 3
off the record. Or
yep, right. Or super ultra mega double super fun remix happy fun times.
What would Frank West do?
Right, something like that. But I don't know what that second game they have. Anyway, there's 18 job openings, so if you happen to be out there looking for a career out in Vancouver, some of the notable jobs, weapon and vehicle artists. I mean, I can draw a car. Now, I probably, maybe not 1080p car, but give me a pencil. I get something pretty nice. They have a director of product development on there, that's a pretty high level position that you're just kind of throwing out there. Maybe it's not. And then a game designer specifically designed on missions. So think of that whatever you will. But two new games coming out of Capcom Vancouver.
Interesting.
Fun. So, that'll be it for the Zombie News Corner. That'll be it for the show. Let's wrap this thing up. Thanks again so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it because I loved recording it. And if you guys could help us out, please give us a rating on iTunes. It's a free way to support the show. Or whatever podcast app you happen to be using. It helps us get the word out to more people. That's how this thing has been growing, and I am so pleased with the rate at which it's been growing. I really thank you guys for all of your support through Twitter. You can reach us at Twitter at Z2Z. That's ZEDTOZED. You can email us directly, contact@Z2Z.com. That is our website. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you can find all of our show notes, links to all this cool stuff that we talked about today. And we've also got a leaderboard set up at TrueAchievements.com. And that's a great place for us to send out, hey, a new show's been launched, or hey, here's some fun stuff going on. So join up with the TrueAchievements.com leaderboards. Quick shout out to all of the sites that make this a reality. TrueAchievements.com. I mean, we've got Jack on here. You can't get any closer to this dedicated achievement site than that. We got the ear of one of the two people that work there. It's fantastic. We've also had a ton of support from the Achievement Hounds podcast and so much help from the XboxAchievements.com. Sorry, Jack, I know I don't want to talk about your competition, but I think we all appreciate them and the other dedicated achievement sites that exist out there. And of course, last but not least, let's not forget Microsoft for giving us the Xbox console to earn all these fantastic achievements. So, on behalf of Terrigan and our special co-host and guest, Jack, this has been Brandon.